Leo Jenkins was a fighter, and his tenacity awoke a giant in the East. More than any other individual, Jenkins was responsible for East Carolina University's rise from its days as a small teachers training school to one of the largest universities in the state. ECU, as it stands today, is far from what it was when Jenkins arrived in 1947, and the same can be said for Greenville and Eastern North Carolina.
Leo Jenkins was a great leader for ECU, for Pitt County, for Eastern North Carolina, and for North Carolina.
Jenkins spent 31 years at East Carolina, 18 as president and chancellor, leading the school to university status, establishing 150 new academic programs, guiding the initiative to establish a medical school, and elevating the Pirates athletic programs to new heights.
My father pushed for growth in Greenville and growth at East Carolina. He knew that through size they could help more people in the region get an education and also help Greenville and Pitt County and surrounding areas. So he pushed for growth at East Carolina, and he also pushed for big-time athletics.
After beginning his educational career as a New Jersey high school teacher, Jenkins earned a doctorate in education from New York University. His teaching days did not last for long, however, as he served briefly in World War II after registering for service in 1942. Following his service, Jenkins returned to work for the New Jersey Education Department before accepting a position as Dean of East Carolina Teachers College in Greenville. Upon his arrival, Jenkins began the push for the 1951 name change to East Carolina College, noting that the school had diversified its educational opportunities. In 1960, Jenkins became president of the college, and he started the charge toward university designation. In 1967, the years of work paid off when East Carolina College became East Carolina University.
East Carolina was not what East Carolina is today. And the only thing I can say about that is that it is what it is today because of Leo Jenkins.
Jenkins set the stage for university designation throughout the 1960s by leading the university through a series of transformational changes and events. In 1960, he raised awareness of the university by arranging the visit of presidential candidate John F. Kennedy. 2 years later, on his own accord, Jenkins successfully led the desegregation of campus without some of the conflict experienced by others.
When he first took over, it was a totally segregated school. And when other colleges and universities throughout the country were having riots and all kinds of problems in integrating the school, he very quietly did it because it was the right thing to do.
The start of a school of business, a graduate school, and expansion of arts on campus, including the start of ECU's Summer Theater, also helped establish ECU as a vital asset in Eastern North Carolina. While helping the university earn the respect of others statewide, Jenkins kept his finger on the pulse of the ECU campus he represented by keeping the line of communication open with students and staff. During his time as chancellor, it was common to see Jenkins walking around the campus, interacting with others, and learning more about campus needs.
You know, you didn't know Leo, but you knew him because he was everywhere on campus.
When he wasn't lobbying for the university or interacting on campus, Jenkins could be found at his children's events or pursuing one of his passions, painting. Jenkins was also passionate about athletics and recognized the important role that sports play as the front porch for higher education recruitment. During his tenure, he propelled ECU athletics into a more competitive place through the construction of Ficklin Stadium and Minges Coliseum and the acquisition of prominent football coaches such as Clarence Stasevich and Pat Dye.
But he had this mantra that, if you're going to do something, be the best you can be. So in other words, if you're going to have a school of business at East Carolina, don't strive to be average or mediocre, strive to be the very best in the country. And he had a lot of respect from people for his take on athletics. And it was the same thing. If we're going to have a football team, let's strive to be the very best football team we possibly can be. Let's be the best in the country.
East Carolina's athletics really took off in those days, which had a lot to do with attracting students to the university and helping with growth.
Jenkins spearheaded rapid growth at ECU into the 1970s, overseeing the construction of more than 25 new buildings on campus while increasing the number of academic programs. He also gained the reputation of a tenacious fighter who stood up for Eastern North Carolina with entities such as the North Carolina Legislature and the Board of Governors.
He did have big ideas and was willing to fight for them. And that's the best part. You can talk a lot of great talk, but if you don't really get out there and walk and do and ask and bother everybody half to death and hear and get them and get them and get them, and if they're not going to see me, I'm going to sit here until you see me. I don't care if I have to sit here for 8 hours. He was that type of determination.
One of Jenkins' most significant achievements came in 1974 when funding was awarded to ECU for the establishment of a medical school, despite resistance from some in the state.
So I talked to him one day about that and said, Dad, the odds are stacked so much against you. Why in the world are you continuing this fight? There's no way you can win it. And this was a great lesson that I had learned from him. He said, son, if you have the truth on your side, no one can defeat you.
In 1977, the medical school welcomed its first class, and today, the Brody School of Medicine produces more doctors who work in North Carolina than any other medical school in the state.
He wanted it to work, but he was a visionary in the sense that he knew that would mean so much, not for just here, but for the whole of Eastern North Carolina.
By the time Jenkins retired, enrollment at ECU had grown by nearly 12,000 students, and the university was one of the largest in the state. When he passed away in 1989, Jenkins' legacy as one of the most important figures in Eastern North Carolina's history was solidified. And while some of the battles that Jenkins fought are still prevalent today, Eastern North Carolina, Greenville, and East Carolina University are better positioned to fight them because of Leo Jenkins.
I think you could make the argument that Leo Jenkins is the most important person in Greenville history. If you look at what his impact was and what his vision was and what Greenville became, which was his vision.